Pakistan's ruling PML-N party says it has secured enough seats to form the next government in Azad Jammu and Kashmir after unofficial results showing it winning 14 of the 18 constituencies decided in the second phase of voting. Azad Jammu and Kashmir, or AJK, is Pakistan's part of the disputed Kashmir region. It has its own elected legislative assembly and government, although Pakistan controls key areas including defense and foreign affairs. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif congratulated the PML-N's leadership and successful candidates on Monday, saying the result reflected public confidence in the party's policies. The PPP, which won the remaining 4 seats in Sunday's vote, has rejected that claim. It accuses PML-N of using violence, rigging and state influence to secure its lead. The two parties are coalition partners in Pakistan's federal government but are competing against each other for the control of AJK. The election is being held in 3 phases because of security concerns. In the first phase, held in Mirpur on July 27th, PML-N won 9 of the 13 seats. The PPP secured 4. The second phase covered constituencies in Muzaffarabad's division and all 12 refugee seats. These refugee constituencies represented people displaced from Indian-occupied Kashmir who live across Pakistan. Polling stations were established in cities and districts across Punjab, Sindh, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Balochistan and the federal capital Islamabad. According to unofficial results announced by AJK's Chief Election Commissioner, the PML-N won 4 of 6 territorial seats decided in Muzaffarabad's division and 10 of the 12 refugee constituencies. The PPP secured 2 territorial seats and 2 refugee seats. The PML-N was particularly dominant in the 6 Jammu refugee constituencies, winning all of them. One of the closest contests was LA 37, where PML-N candidate Mariam Javed defeated Usman Aleem of Jammu and Kashmir United Movement by 28,547 votes to 22,937. The PML-N also won several prominent territorial contests. Former AJK Prime Minister Raja Farooq Haider secured LA 32, while Saqib Majid Khan defeated PPP candidate and acting AJK President Chaudhry Lateef Akbar in LA 31. The PPP won LA 26 through Mia Abdul Wahid Khan and LA 29 through Sardar Mukhtar Ahmed Khan. PML-N leader Rana Sonalullah says the party has secured 23 of the Assembly's 45 general seats across the first 2 phases. He described that as the government-forming number and said the party would convene a parliamentary meeting after the final phase to decide its next steps. But the second phase is not yet complete. Polling in LA 27, Muzaffarabad 1, was postponed after landslide and bad weather blocked Neelam Valley Road and prevented election staff and materials from reaching the constituencies. Voting will now take place on Tuesday at all 197 polling stations in the seat. Polling was also postponed in parts of LA 28, Muzaffarabad 2. Voting will be held on Tuesday at 54 stations across 3 union councils. Election officials said staff and materials could not reach those areas because roads were blocked. Ballot boxes were also set on fire at 2 polling stations. Additional security personnel have been deployed, and local administration have declared Tuesday a public holiday across Muzaffarabad's district. The Chief Election Commissioner said turnout in the 7 territorial constituencies where voting began on Sunday was 53%. He described the election as one of the most difficult held in AJK and said voters had chosen the ballot despite pressure and calls for disruption. Outside AJK, however, turnout for the refugee seats was generally low. One of the polling stations in Mohammed's district, not a single voter appeared. In Deir Ghazi Khan, an entire station was established for one registered female voter who cast her ballot. The election was also marked by clashes between PML-N and PPP supporters. In LA 31, the PPP alleged that one of its workers, Syed Mustaq Shah, was killed in an attack by PML-N supporters. PML-N rejected that allegation, saying Shah suffered a cardiac arrest after a clash between the 2 groups. Neither account has been independently confirmed. Chaudhry Lateef Akbar also alleged that he had been attacked while travelling to vote. In letters to the Election Commission, he complained of firing, security failures, interference in polling and attempts to stop polling agents and voters from entering stations. The PPP says 8 of its workers were injured during the elections and it submitted at least 15 complaints to the electoral authorities. It has also questioned the turnout of between 85 to 99% at around 40 polling stations, arguing that such figures were unusually high. PPP leader Shajil Inam Memon described the election as historically rigged and accused the AJK Chief Election Commissioner of supporting the PML-N. He challenged the official explanation for postponing polling in LA 27, saying there had been no rain in the constituency on Sunday. The PML-N has dismissed the allegations. Rana Sonalullah has accused the PPP of creating a rigging narrative before the results were available and asked how the party had won seats if the entire process had been manipulated. He alleged that the PPP had worked with the proscribed Joint Awami Action Committee to disrupt voting. The PPP had not accepted that claim. The committee, also known as JAAC, has led protests in AJK since June. Among its demands is the abolishment of 12 refugee seats, which argues destroy its local representations. Some of those protests have turned violent. The third and final phase of elections is scheduled for August 10th in Poonch division. But the Election Commission says security concerns could prevent voting in Rawalkot and Thora. Polling in other constituencies will also depend on reports from local authorities. The current AJK Assembly constitutional term ends after August 4th. The Chief Election Commissioner says the new assembly can still take its oath after the final phase, even if voting remains pending in some constituencies. The PML-N therefore appears firmly positioned to form the next AJK government, but the final composition of the assembly remains unsettled. Voting is still pending, several results have not formally been notified, and allegations of violence and rigging have turned the electoral contest into a growing dispute between two of Pakistan's largest political parties. The election dispute comes amid wider confrontation between the AJK government and the now proscribed Joint Awami Action Committee, or JAAC. The group has held weeks of protests demanding the abolishment of 12 assembly seats reserved for refugees from Indian-administered Kashmir. Clashes between protesters and security forces were reported in Rawalkot and Mirpur last week. AJK Information Secretary Mohammad Rashid Hanif said 7 police and ranger personnel were martyred, 45 were seriously injured, and several official vehicles burned during the unrest. The dispute has also extended to media coverage. The AJK government accused the BBC of biased reporting on the Rawalkot clashes, while Pakistan's Information Ministry accused Al Jazeera of selectively presenting the Muzaffarabad election as a boycott.